Have you noticed that English speakers pronounce the ed ending in the past tense differently?
Knowing which pronunciation to use at which time is tricky, but there are some general rules that we can follow and that we're going to break down for you guys today.
So let's talk about it. What's up, guys? Welcome to Why Girlfriends English. Today, we're dealing with that dreaded past tense pronunciation.
It's tough.
We have quite a few students really struggling with this right now, so we figured that putting together a video will probably help a lot of other people as well.
We're going to give you 3 general rules to figure out which pronunciation to use after consonants, and then one that for you to be able to use after vowels.
Then we're going to give you guys some practice on the screen with the word and with a sentence for you to just really practice. And hey, guys, we give you a lot of practice in these videos because the goal is kind of like a one and done. Like we do one massive video with lots of practice so that you guys can kind of get the feel for it in that video. But if you want more practice, you can always find it in our program, Fluency Fast Track.
So the first rule is we pronounce the ed at the end as a d sound after voiced consonants, with the exception of another d sound.
A voiced consonant is a consonant where your throat vibrates a little bit when you pronounce it. So think of that n or okay? N and M are voiced consonants, for example. So your P, your T, your voice will not move at all with those. Those are just air. They're unvoiced consonants. So your p, your t, your k, your s, all of those are unvoiced consonants. There's lots of them. You can find these charts very easily online. So words like rained, you should be feeling your voice move, your throat vibrate with this one. So you have rained, okay, we'll end with a D. You have nailed, you're gonna end with a D sound. You have sobbed, you're gonna end with that D sound because those are voiced consonants.
Yeah, if you think about it, the sounds that are together, they like to be together. The sounds are the same, whether it's a voiced and unvoiced or a voiceless and a voiceless. We like to have those sounds together because it's a lot harder for us to make a voiced sound and then pair it with an unvoiced sound. The second general rule here is the opposite of this. If you have a word that ends in ed, but the sound directly before it is an unvoiced or a voiceless consonant sound, like s, k, t, then you will pronounce the d as a t to match that voiceless consonant. So for example, you have words like looked and helped and snatched.
Yes, so again, when you feel that voiceless, the consonant, your throat should not be vibrating as you say that. This is an easy-ish way to do it. Is it true all the time? Probably not. This is English. There's always exceptions. But generally speaking, this is our rule. Now, those work except for words that end with D and T before you put the ED sound. We have a different rule for those. For these, we pronounce that ED. We go ahead and put that ED in there. So we say TED or dead at the end. So you have started, decided, and deposited. Those are great examples where we make that dead, and TED at the end. Okay, why are those different? Because they are one of the major exceptions to the other 2 rules we shared with you.
And your mouth is already there. It's already ready. For you to try to double tap the D sound, it's very difficult to do. Just go, started.
I can't do that.
It's not very easy for native English speakers to do that. So instead of double tapping or rolling that sound, what we do is we add that supplemental sound in between the final consonant and the D at the end to make it pass. So started.
Yes, we do consonant clusters in English, but it's usually like KL, BL, CL, or TL sounds. We shove those consonants together, or the TCH sound. There's a lot of people that struggle with these consonant clusters in English, but this T and D ending with another D sound at the end, we want to put a vowel in there because our mouth is set properly for that. So we separate those sounds because we don't roll our sounds in English.
So what if the last sound of a word is not a consonant, but a vowel? What do we do then?
Like lie.
Ooh, like lie?
Or to lie to people.
That's a whole nother video.
Lie finishes in a vowel sound. We write it as AI in the International Phonetic Alphabet, but lie has that vowel ending. So when we add the past tense, when we make it past tense, we just add the D, and that's it. Lied. Because there's a vowel sound before the D, so we don't need to add another vowel sound, as in ED. So it's not lied, it's not lied, it's lied.
This rule, if you want to try to simplify things a little bit, it kind of goes along with the first rule in the fact that the sound right before the D is a voiced sound. All of our vowels in English are voiced sounds. The ah, e, ah, o, are voiced sounds. If you put your hand in your throat, you can feel that they're all vibrating. Like I said earlier, if it's voiced, we'd like to have the ending sound as a voiced sound. So very rarely are you going to find a T for that past tense when that word in a vowel sound. The vast majority of times, you're going to have it end in a D sound.
But there are irregular vowels. This doesn't work for everything, of course. We have lead becomes led, read becomes read, catch becomes caught. Those are different. Irregular verbs we treat with completely different rules. This is just to help you with the pronunciation where we're simply adding D or ED to the end of a word.
So let's do some practice. We're going to put the word and an example sentence on the screen, and what we want you to do is to pause the video, say it before we say it, and then hear our pronunciation, see if you can catch these rules in an actual sentence.
Here we go. Invited. Invited. They invited me to their daughter's birthday party.
Invested. Mr. Harris invested heavily into index funds in the 1990s.
Good for him. Have visited. Have visited. We put the have in there to really trip you up. We have visited 39 of the 50 states.
Has traveled. Has traveled. Bethany has traveled to 31 countries.
Had illustrated. Had illustrated. The artist had illustrated hundreds of magazine articles within a few years.
Had underestimated. Had underestimated. She was upset that he had underestimated the amount of water damage.
Reprimanded. Reprimanded. The mischievous student was heavily reprimanded for lighting a firecracker in class.
Wow. Wow.
That would be pretty bad.
Walked. Walked. I walked 500 miles last year.
Wow, look at you. Hiked. Hiked. Sarah hiked to the snowfields on Pikes Peak yesterday.
Interested. Interested. Try as she might, the kids were simply not interested in studying fungus today.
I wonder why.
It's fun guy.
Has studied. Has studied. Theodora has studied English for 20 years.
Were mitigated. Were mitigated. The waves were greatly mitigated by breakers along the beach.
Pounded. Pounded. The drummers pounded rhythmically on their drums.
Sanded. Rounded. Sanded. Rounded. Stanley carefully sanded the table's corners until they were safely rounded.
Was offered. Was offered. She was offered a highly sought-after position at the company.
This is actually used as an adjective, but it's tormented. Tormented. I felt tormented by hunger and thirst.
Operated. Operated. The doctors operated on the man with confident precision and skill.
This is another adjective, but it's used as comprised. The series is comprised of a dozen books on the various members of a secret society.
Scolded. Scolded. Miss Duncan scolded her husband sharply.
This one we have two, a verb and an adjective. Aided, impacted. Aided, impacted. Volunteers from around the state aided those impacted by the tornado.
Interpreted. Interpreted. Unfortunately, the translator interpreted the chef's message improperly.
The next one, implemented. Implemented. Lawmakers have recently implemented 3 new codes for this district.
Cleaned and shaved. Cleaned, shaved. The dog's matted fur was thoroughly cleaned and shaved.
Next one is typed, turned. Typed, turned. I typed out my essay and turned it in online.
Were reevaluated and heavily contested. Were reevaluated and heavily contested. This is a verb and an adjective. Though the scores were reevaluated, the results were highly contested by the red team.
The next one, migrated. Migrated. After dinner, everyone migrated to the living room to play board games. My kind of evening.
Was condemned, boarded up. Was condemned, boarded up. The old house was condemned and boarded up until someone could tear it down.
Misspelled. Misspelled. Luke accidentally misspelled his name.
Oops.
I don't know how you do that, but...
Maybe he forgot the E. Filled out. Filled out. Once you get these forms filled out, please return them to the receptionist.
The next one is evaluated, assessed, defended. Evaluated, assessed, defended. For example, his dissertation was evaluated and assessed by the board for approval well before he actually defended it.
Talked. Talked. They talked for hours.
The next one, boarded, stowed, buckled, plugged. Boarded, stowed, buckled, plugged. They boarded the plane, stowed their bags in the overhead compartment, buckled their seatbelts, and plugged their headphones in to relax.
So here we have a mix of verbs and adjectives. Stashed, prized, burst. Stashed, prized, burst. Eric quickly stashed his most prized possessions under his bed before his sister burst into the room.
The next one was determined, trained. Was determined, trained. Ray was determined to test for his black belt sooner than the other brown belts, so he trained hard.
Washed and dried. Washed and dried. The boys obediently washed their plates, dried them off, and put them away.
Well done. Well done, boys. The next one was paraded, celebrated. Was paraded, celebrated. The king's powerful stallion was paraded through the streets as the citizens celebrated the kingdom's victory.
Were printed and penned. Were printed and penned. 43 pages were printed on yellow paper and pinned on bulletin boards around campus.
The next one was apprehended and collected. Was apprehended, collected. The suspect was apprehended based on the evidence collected at the scene of the crime.
Coaxed, trusted. Coaxed, trusted. The small child coaxed the goat every day with treats until it trusted her.
The next one is loaded, pulled. Loaded, pulled. Despite being small, the toddler loaded all the fresh berries into her little cart and pulled it to the fruit stand.
All right, guys, there you go. That was a ton of practice, and I hope you could tell there was a mix of some beginner words, some intermediate words in there to help you guys out. We threw in some curveballs in there for you as well. These pronunciation rules work for past participle adjectives just as well as the past tense verbs, because verbs and adjectives can be past participles. So I hope you guys got some practice with this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like this kind of video, let us know, because we can do a lot more. There's a lot of pronunciation notes we've gathered from students over years of teaching. So we could come up with quite a few lists of practice for you guys to improve your spoken pronunciation at home.
Thank you guys so much for sticking with us, and we'll catch you on the next one.